Hey guys, so I thought it'd be fun to do something kind of Halloween-like. I've got this little pumpkin here, and we're going to use something called the Puppet Warp Tool to kind of take these objects we've got here. I've got a fox, I've got a hand. I might not use the fox. I might just stick with this black cat. But I'm gonna ask that everyone use three things. So I've included the hand. And I'm going to include the cat as well. I didn't know that until I just said that, but I'll let you guys pick the last thing. I'm going to give you some advice, though. Don't search snake on Pixabay. Just don't search it. Anyways, we're going to have these guys sort of interacting and wrapping around this pumpkin. Now, this pumpkin is somewhat small. If you were to kind of like think about the way pumpkins look when they're big, they're a lot taller than they are wide. But we're going to make this first. We're going to make this look a little spookier here. So let's create a couple little adjustment layers here with our curves. I'm just gonna unlock this, and I'm gonna Control J a couple times here just to make a couple things. So I'm just gonna make this first start off. I'm gonna make this a bit darker by going to my curves here, and like I said before, we're gonna kind of take the brightness down. We're just gonna pull in the brightness a little bit down here, make it a bit darker, and then we'll take our blues, or first all reds. We'll take the reds down slightly. It's going to make everything a little bit greener. And we'll take our greens down slightly just to make everything a little bit more blue. Make it look a little more like sunset here. So that's kind of nice. And then what we'll do is we'll put a little clipping mask on this guy. And we'll take a little layer mask here. And we'll sort of like just make the pumpkin a bit brighter. And I'll get my black here. I'll just sort of like make the pumpkin just a little bit brighter, you know, almost as if it's sort of glowing in the light here, sort of like standing out a little bit. You can leave the shadows on the sides and the edges and stuff. So I'm just gonna really try to avoid getting any kind of glow on the outside. I'm just using my brush with the touchpad here, so it shouldn't be too terribly difficult. I can leave the stalk a little bit brighter, you know, a little bit darker there. But let's just see if we can't get towards the edges here. The bottom can stay kind of, but we'll just have that sort of standing out some. And obviously you can adjust like the opacity of your brush if you want to make this less dark, you know. But there we go. We'll see just a little bit more on the edges here. Try not to go over. Don't cross the lines. Don't touch the sides. Fantastic. I'll go ahead and hit that stalk right up here as well, just because. Hide this here. It was too far. Okay. All right, neat. So that gives us a little bit more of a bluey kind of look to it. I might pull my blues up a little bit more. Just pull my blues up slightly. Not quite so much. A little more of the shadows as well. And I might add a little exposure and just darken it just slightly. Not a lot, just slightly here. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to Control, Alt, Shift, and E just to make this into one thing. I'm just going to go ahead and just delete all these layers down here. Just select all these guys, and I'm just going to trash all these just so we have this guy right here. And he's just kind of hanging out. All right, cool. Okay, so just as far as what we're going to do with the cat, we're going to cut the cat out. So I'm just going to real quick just show you how I went about this. What I do is I just sort of like, you know, kind of make a rough selection at first. Okay. Rough selection here. Not too terribly exact. Okay, and then what we'll do is we'll just get in with our pen tool and we'll clean this up some. And I'm going to be a little bit roughshod with this thing here. Remember, you can hold down Control, you can move the anchor points, you can hold down Alt, and you can adjust the little handles here, the little vertex handles. Oops. Like so, right click on it, make selection, subtract from selection in this case. Over here I might grab this, make selection, add to selection, and oops, finish this out here. Make selection, add to selection, and I'll just pause here for a second. I'll just make a layer mask, and I'm going to add a solid color on top here. Solid color. I'll make it something like pale gray here. Just drag this down just so I know where all the rough edges are. And I'll just get my layer mask selected. I'll just get my brush, and I'm going to real quickly sort of brush out some of the background layers here. My brush is set to have 50% hardness here, around 40-50%. So it's going to be kind of a soft brush just to make it a little less pixelated as it goes by. Trying just to smooth out the jagged edges and make sure all the background is out of the way here. So come around here like this. All right. Get rid of this little area of the background here, this leaf. Smooth this little jagged edge out here. Now we can speed this up. Oops. Remember, you can use the square brackets to change the size of your brush without having to go up to your brush menu here. Square brackets above the Enter key. All right, I'll speed this up. Okay, so I'm going to convert this into a smart object here just by going over to my layer here, right click on it, convert to smart object. And what we'll do is we'll get rid of this. Now I'm just going to drag this over here into my pumpkin. And first thing I'll do is I'm going to shrink this down a good deal just to make it seem as if it's a bigger pumpkin than it is. And let's talk about the Puppet Warp tool. Okay, the Puppet Warp tool is fairly simple. It can work on your smart objects here. And essentially what you see is a sort of a diamond grid, much in the same way when we do our low poly portraits. And what you do is you find these little vertices in the grid, and you click once and it creates a little pin, right? And you need more than one pin for this to work. So I'm gonna make 2 pins. I'm gonna make a pin here. I'll make a pin right next to his ear. Now, once you have more than one pin, you can select a pin and you can move the pin, and the other pin will stay where it's put. Now, so I can stretch the cat out. I can move, but I'm only moving it around on this one pin. If I grab this other pin, the same thing happens. I rotate it around the other pin. However, if I were to maybe put another pin here, I can start to move this, and it moves sort of like independently of the rest of the cat. Now, I need to start putting some more pins in here. I'm going to put a pin here. I'll put a pin here. I'll put a pin at the base of the tail, at the tip of the tail, maybe halfway through the tail, on the back. I'm going to put one on the other ear, maybe one right in the center here. Now, once I do that, I can move this foot, and it's going to start moving around kind of independently of the rest of the cat. If I click on this pin right here, maybe I can get rid of this pin in sort of, we'll say Alt. Yeah, Alt. You hold down Alt and you can get rid of that, and so now I can kind of move this a little bit more easily. I'm going to maybe curve this paw down around, say. Maybe grab it right here, kind of push this up. Maybe even grab this. I'll just cut these out here. Actually, no. I'll just cut these out, Alt. I'll click these guys off. And oh, we'll see if we can't sort of curve this down some. Curve this down as well, just to have them sort of like laying here. I might grab right here and maybe get rid of these ear pins and just sort of pull his head down too slightly. Starting to warp a little bit here more than I like, so I'm going to tilt his head. Whoa, that's getting a little bit nuts. All right, so like you say, it's like everything else. You start messing around with it, it can go a little crazy. I'll pull this up a little bit. Say it's going under the other one. I'll drag this up too. Then maybe I'll drag this guy up a little bit as well. Then I'll drag this down. Then I'll drag this down as well. Maybe I'll drag this up some. Now we've totally changed his posture. That's kind of neat. So I'm going to have him sitting on top of the pumpkin, so I'll hit it there. Whoa, his face got a little janked up. All right, let me try that one more time. I'm going to go back to Edit, Puppet Warp, and I'll kind of focus on getting his face a little less wonky here. Let's try that. That looks a little bit better. Okay, so it's slightly. All right. So we're gonna shrink him down some just to get him to fit. And once we have that, we'll just pop him on top of this pumpkin here. Maybe have him positioned in such a way to where it sort of fits it. Now that we have all that, we need to kind of apply a mask here to get that kind of taken care of. So I'm just gonna add a layer mask here, and we'll start painting in the parts of the pumpkin we want to see. So I'm just gonna get my brush, and I'll just sort of paint away parts of it. I want to see that other foot in front of the. He's like sort of straddling the thing there. I'll just sort of. And now we've got him sort of positioned there. Neat. All right. So bring that opacity back up and see how that looks. Okay. There we go, we got a little kitty cat on top of the pumpkin. All right, cool. All right, so the same thing goes with the hand. Now, I've got the hand as a PNG, but it works the same way. When you import it, it's going to be a smart object. So I'm just going to drag this into my pumpkin here, and I'm going to have it just kind of chilling over this way. And I'm going to add, first off, I'm going to add a, well, I'll just start with Puppet Word here. So let me just shrink this down a little bit, not a lot, not quite as much as the cat, but I'll have it over this way, and maybe we can like make it seem as if it's sort of grabbing onto the pumpkin. This way here. This is actually a photograph. From here it looks a bit like a CGI. But we'll just, once again, edit, puppet warp, and we'll have the sort of disembodied hand grabbing this pumpkin. Ooh, spooky, spooky. Alright, once again, we need to lock this down in a couple different ways here. So we'll sort of pull this thumb down here. We'll pull this joint down a little bit too. Pull this back a bit. So the hand sort of stretches a little bit here. Okay, right here. Drag this down, drag this point of the finger down to some, oops. So let's just get rid of this pin and maybe put it right here. Okay, get rid of this pin here. And we need to get that little fingertip down, so I'm just gonna, oh, here we go. Now she's grabbing on real tight. Whoa. Control Z, Control Alt Z, nope, can't do that. Get rid of this one. Oh no. Okay, so we have that pinned down there. We might grab this and just sort of drag this in a little bit, make it seem like it's hanging down a little bit more. I might drag this down a bit more just to see if we can't get that fleshy part a little bit more rounded. And maybe even drag this in slightly. Drag this down some. Drag this in slightly here. Okay, let's see what we got. All right, we got it's kind of grabbing on that pumpkin here. Now it's a bit too it's a bit too clear, so I'm going to go over here to my filter, camera raw filter. I'm going to bring the clarity down some. I'm also going to bring down the dehaze, maybe bring down the exposure slightly. And then the thing what we can do here is we can actually add some curves to it, and let's actually just do what we did before. We'll bring down the brightness slightly, making sure this is a clipping mask here. We'll bring down the brightness a little bit more. And let's go to our reds, and let's pull our reds way down to make it look kind of green. So we can kind of get that little effect going there. And, all right, so now we got this little thing, and maybe if you want to find like a bone somewhere, we can kind of put a little bone. This actually could use a filter. I think I could have a bit of a blur on there. So I'm going to go up to Filter, Blur, and I'm going to go to Gaussian Blur. It just looks a bit too clear, a bit too resolute. So I'm going to pull this down a bit here. Can't really see it, can I? Okay. Oh, wait, I blurred the curves. Never mind. Let me grab this guy. And Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. Let's blur it maybe like a half a pixel. That looks a bit better. Okay. All right. So now we've got that kind of grab it on there. And the last thing I'll do is I'll put this fox in. I don't know where this fox is going to go. I might have him maybe like, you know, peeking around the corner. But the point is that you choose whatever it is you'd like to go onto this pumpkin here, and see we can't make it fit a bit. I don't know, can we make this fit some more? I don't know, can we make this fit better? How do we do that? Do we like sample some of the colors on top of this? Let's actually do this number here. Let's actually grab this guy. Let's actually rasterize all the, let's merge all this down. Can we merge all this down? Let's actually rasterize the smart filters. What are those merge layers? Here we go. Cool. All right. So now what we can do is we can sample some of the colors from the outside on top of this to make it still look like it's green. So I'm going to go once again, adjustment layer. Oops, no, that's adjustment layer, curves, and what we'll do is we'll make this a clipping mask here, and we'll hold down Alt and press Auto, and we'll just sample those light and dark colors. So our shadows will be this sort of dark. Oh, I did a bad thing. make sure we're on the curves layer, not the mask. Hold down Alt, click on Auto, and once again, shadows in this sort of dark brown area here. Okay, midtones, maybe this like umber color, and then highlights, this yellow color. And then I'll press OK and see if we can't pull the opacity of this with a fill down some. Just fit in a bit better. Yeah, I just think it looks like it's almost like it's CGI at this point. Okay, so once again, we're just sort of wrapping these guys around there, and we're seeing if we can't maybe just something like to tie it all together. How about this? Let's add a gradient map on everything, and we'll just the gradient map will be something like blue on blue, or something sort of a dark blue on like a light blue. It's okay. And we'll just hold that down a good deal. Everything's looking like it's fitting together a bit better. Okay, well anyways, grab a third object, have it hang on the thing in some form or fashion, have it interacting with it using the puppet warp, and say this is a JPEG. Let's go ahead and put our name down at the bottom here. Call it like, you know, Happy Halloween from Mr. Lobello. Right, and then I'll just go ahead and make sure that doesn't look like I can see it here. And pull this down to like, say, 12 points. Okay, neat. Alright, cool. Whoops. Spelled that correctly. Alright, cool. Well, see, like I said, third object, puppet warp, save it as a JPEG. Very neat. See you guys in class.